I try and keep it as natural as possible, and Melodyne works great for that. Around the first heyday of Take That, first time round, they did an album. I ended up assisting a couple of days on that, and spent a little while assisting Stephen Street on a project for a band called Echo Belly, which was for me quite a thrill, because I'd been a fan of his as a producer and engineer, and so it was a fantastic insight into his process. The producer that I'd worked with gave me a call. He was working on some Bob Marley mixes for Ireland, and thought that I might be a good candidate for the role that they had in their private studio that was only available to Island Records artists in the basement of St Peter's Square, which was the founding home of Island Records in London. And so I ended up being there full time for about 4 years, which was great. I loved it. It was just myself in an SSL studio with a fantastic history, lots of amazing equipment, and a really good roster of artists. I've now done, I guess, 2.5 tours with her. I got involved through a producer called Stuart Price, who is well known for producing and writing the Confessions album with her, and subsequently he's done The Killers, and he has his own band, Zoot Woman. So he invited me on to do that initially. It was something I'd never done. I've always worked only in studios. So it felt like an opportunity just to experience another side of music. The title is Programmer. In both cases, we had two different MDs. The first time out was Stuart Price, and then we had a new MD, Kevin Antunes, for the 2008 run. Is basically to work with them, getting the sessions together for whatever songs she wants to do on the tour or try out. Work on arrangements with her, change things to her request to suit choreography or timing, or a musical change that she might want to make, and then run the show effectively. I mean, it's a very tightly choreographed show, so video and lights all run with the music. So I help put the show together in that respect from a technical standpoint, and then on the road run it. We did stadiums this last tour, so we were playing anywhere between 40 and I think 90,000 people. So your margin of error, or my margin of error, is actually zero, because if my system fails, the kind of knock-on effect from a show point of view is fairly catastrophic. You don't get a second chance. Melodyne just seemed like a very simple way, not being a musician, primarily I'm a recording engineer, so it seemed like quite a simple approach, and I liked the interface, and I liked the way that it worked with Logic, which was what I was working on at the time, and that was it. I was kind of sold. I also liked the MIDI options that were available in terms of converting the data that you imported into the software and spitting that out as MIDI streams that you could then manipulate further. So that was useful, and I've kind of stuck with it. I'm glad they brought out the plug-in version, because that's made things a little easier for using it in Pro Tools. Mostly I've used it in the most simplest form, which is as a tuning device, and the fact that it gives you control over modulation, the fact that it gives you obviously control over the pitch of the note. I can relatively naturally tune. I don't over-tune anything. It'll just be subtle corrections just to keep a performance that is by and large has the right feel and attitude, but may have a few wayward notes in it, and it means that you can kind of keep the essence of that performance without killing it. I mean, I think a lot of technology, great as it is at the moment, people tend to overuse, and that's fine if it's as an effect, but it's when it's overused just as a tuning tool that I sort of find it a little off-putting. So I try and keep it as natural as possible. And Melodyne works great for that. I think because of what I do as a sort of mixer mostly, it's just a fairly subtle fixing tool that I don't think anybody likes the idea that their performance is being too manipulated, and I don't really go for that sort of thing. It's not my approach. So it's all fairly subtle, but important. That's a little passage of lead vocal that's just been imported into the Melodyne plugin. Just allow me to correct some vibrato and just, you know, see what I can do in terms of just subtly improving the performance. So that would just import in that phrase, and I could just work through it.
The road is long, the night is dark.
And I might just want to flatten the vibrato on that last note, for example.
The road is long, the night is dark.
And essentially that's all I use it for, very subtle changes. Hopefully you've got a performance that doesn't require a great deal of tuning. I've just experimented with the beta version and just imported in some guitar parts and played around with moving notes within chords around. That's been quite an interesting insight into what may become possible. So I'm interested in experimenting with that just on a creative level. I mean, vocally as well, I can see it being quite an important. If for example, I can envisage a situation where I get a stereo bounce down of backing vocals, and you might want to fiddle with the contents of that balance or the notes within that balance. That seems to be like something that'd be quite useful for me to tweak with, even just on a creative level, to create a sort of ghost, an octave below, or notes within that to create harmonies that don't exist in the balance that I've been provided with. You know, that you could treat with effects and create quite a glow, a halo type effect around the vocals that are there. So there's some interesting possibilities that, you know, if I get the right session, I'll definitely be trying those out.